Masks like this one cannot protect against the new coronavirus when used alone. When you wear them, you must combine with hand hygiene and other preventive measures. WHO only recommends the use of masks in specific cases. If you have cough, fever, and difficulty breathing, you should wear a mask and seek medical care. If you do not have these symptoms, you do not have to wear masks because there is no evidence that they protect people who are not sick. However, if you are healthy, but you are taking care of a person who may be infected with the new coronavirus, then you should wear a mask whenever you are in the same room with that person. And remember, if you choose to wear a mask, use it and discard it properly and clean your hands with alcohol hand rub or soap and water.
In December 2019, there was a cluster of pneumonia cases in China. Investigations found that it was caused by a previously unknown virus, now named the 2019 novel coronavirus. In this video, we'll take a quick look at what's currently known about the virus. Keep in mind that this is a new virus, and what's known about the virus now might change in the future. Coronaviruses are a large group of viruses. They consist of a core of genetic material surrounded by an envelope with protein spikes. This gives it the appearance of a crown. Crown in Latin is called corona, and that's how these viruses get their name. There are different types of coronaviruses that cause respiratory and sometimes gastrointestinal symptoms. Respiratory disease can range from the common cold to pneumonia, and in most people, the symptoms tend to be mild. However, there are some types of coronaviruses that can cause severe disease. These include the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, first identified in China in 2003, and the Middle East respiratory syndrome coronavirus that was first identified in Saudi Arabia in 2012. The 2019 novel coronavirus was first identified in China. It initially occurred in a group of people with pneumonia who'd been associated with a seafood and live animal market in the city of Wuhan. The disease has since spread from those who were sick to others, including family members and healthcare staff. There are many cases at present, and the disease has spread within China and also to a number of other countries. So, where did the virus come from? It's known that coronaviruses circulate in a range of animals. Sometimes these viruses can make the jump from animals to humans. This is called a spillover and could be due to a range of factors such as mutations in the virus or increased contact between humans and animals. For example, MERS-CoV is known to be transmitted from camels and SARS-CoV from civet cats. The animal reservoir of the 2019 novel coronavirus is not known yet. How is it transmitted? The exact dynamics of how the virus is transmitted is yet to be determined. In general, respiratory viruses are usually transmitted through droplets created when an infected person coughs or sneezes, or through something that has been contaminated with the virus. People most at risk of infection from the novel coronavirus are those in close contact with animals, such as live animal market workers, and those who are caring for people infected with the virus, such as family members or healthcare workers. So, how does the disease present? Well, from what is known so far, there can be a number of symptoms ranging from mild to severe. There can be fever and respiratory symptoms such as cough and shortness of breath. In more severe cases, there's been pneumonia, kidney failure, and death. The mortality rate is not known yet. How can we tell whether someone is infected? The infection can be diagnosed by a test called PCR, or polymerase chain reaction. This test identifies the virus based on its genetic fingerprint. There's currently no specific medication for the virus, and treatment is supportive care. There's currently no vaccine to protect against the virus. Treatment and vaccines are in development. How do we prevent transmission of the virus? This new virus currently has a limited geographic spread. However, there are a number of standard hygiene practices that have been recommended to protect against infection and further spread. These include covering your mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing with a medical mask, tissue, or flexed elbow, avoiding close contact with those who are unwell, The appropriate use of masks and personal protective equipment, especially in a healthcare setting. Washing hands regularly with soap and water or alcohol-based hand rub. Actions that can be taken to prevent infection from an animal source include avoiding unnecessary unprotected contact with animals, washing hands after contact with animals or animal products, and ensuring that animal products are cooked thoroughly before they're consumed. It's important to stay home if you're feeling unwell, but if you have a fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early and share your previous travel history with your healthcare provider.
By now, everybody must know about the coronavirus, which is spreading around the world and has reached countries in every single region. It's pretty scary stuff, especially if you look on social media. However, there are things that we can all do to protect ourselves, and particularly to help other people not to get ill. The first cases of coronavirus infection were seen in Wuhan in Hubei province in China in December 2019. They came from an animal source. We know that from genetic sequencing of the virus itself. We don't know which animal it was, but it's pretty likely a wild animal, and it may have come from a market where they were being sold for food. If you're feeling unwell with any sort of respiratory symptoms, which means coughs and sore throats for instance, you really must not go to hospital. You should stay at home and ring 111 in the UK, and somebody will contact you and tell you what to do next. Masks actually are not helpful in protecting yourself, but they are very good for protecting other people if you have a cough, bad throat or a fever and you think you might be infected. The trouble with masks is that if you take it off, it could be covered with virus on the outside. That virus will get onto your hands, and if you put your hands to your eyes, your nose or your mouth, you could get infected that way. Just as with masks, the virus can actually collect on surfaces. It can be on the hands of somebody who's infected or on things they've touched. That means you need to wash your hands all the time, as regularly as you possibly can. Experts say the best way to wash your hands is with soap and water, and take 20 seconds doing that, which is the time taken to sing Happy Birthday twice. The public health experts say if you can't wash your hands, use a hand sanitizer instead. Schools have been told by government to stay open. For reasons we're not sure about, children actually aren't very much affected at all. The people who are most at risk from this virus are the older people and those who have underlying health conditions. If the World Health Organization does declare a pandemic, it's likely the UK government will move into the next stage of response. Measures, for instance, to give the border force greater powers so they could detain people arriving on a plane who are clearly ill, asking retired doctors to come in and help the NHS, and calling on volunteers to help staff public services. The other thing that they will probably do, of course, is to think about mass gatherings and whether some of those ought to be cancelled. There are no drugs at the moment to treat people with coronavirus. We may get a treatment for this, but actually the only way finally to prevent this coronavirus infecting people is through a vaccine. That's what we really need. And it will take probably 18 months to get there, because these things have to be trialled in human beings and we have to be sure that they're absolutely safe as well as effective. That may sound like a long time, but we may get some sort of respite in the summer. Just as with flu, this virus spreads between people at close quarters. In the summertime, they're far less likely to be cooped up at home or anywhere else for that matter. Some people think that you can protect yourself by having the pneumonia vaccine. Unfortunately, that's against bacterial pneumonia, and this is viral pneumonia, so it isn't going to work. It's useful to have the flu vaccine, however, if only that means that you won't get flu, and so you won't burden the health service. Probably until we get a vaccine, we just have to take a lot of sensible measures to protect ourselves and, most importantly, protect the other people we know who are vulnerable because they're elderly or they're infirm in some way. And that includes washing your hands a lot, probably includes actually not shaking hands with people or kissing them on the cheek, and it means staying at home if you feel unwell, and certainly not going to hospital, but calling first. Use the telephone. I think, we should get through this, and certainly we will do once they have that vaccine.